sickness and stuff. But anyway, like I said, it's really, really good to be here. I'm glad everybody's here. Glad everybody made it safe. And so I pray we have a good service today. So let's open in prayer. Heavenly Father, once again, thank you so much for allowing us to be here together today to have this service to worship you and to study your word and to fellowship together as a family. Thank you so much for your Shabbat and that you've given us a provision of rest once a week like this and to recuperate and again to enjoy fellowship with each other for fellow believers and to enjoy your presence in communion with you and the place of worship. And we thank you again for all these things. We pray that you would be honored by this service. I pray that each person would focus their heart on you at this time and that we would all feel your presence today. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. All right, so please stand for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahovah Eloheinu, Yahovah Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto, Leolam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever. And once again, we're going to have Olivia recite the Vav-Ta for us, because she's better at it than me.
V'havta et Yahuwah, Elohecha b'chol levavcha, uv'kol nafshecha, uv'kol me'odecha, v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi matzavacha hayom alavevecha, v'shinatam lavanecha, v'dibartam bambashivtecha, be'vtecha ulettecha v'ader u'shat b'cha uv'komecha, u'kshartam leo aliadecha, v'hayu latodafo beinanecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot be'techa uv'sha'acha. And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire, and when you arise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. V'havta le'recha chamocha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Yahovah bless you and keep you. Yahovah cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahovah turn his face towards you and give you peace. For the daughters, blessed are you of Yahovah, my daughter, for you have been kind and generous. Yahovah is your Elohim, and his people are your people. May all people know of certainty that you are a virtuous daughter. And for the sons, may Yahovah make you like Ephraim and Manasseh, and may you be a man after Yahovah's own heart. May you be bold and courageous, leading everyone under your influence in the ways of Yahovah.
And for both, may your mouth speak with wisdom, may your heart meditate with reverence, may your hands do the work Elohim has given you. May your feet hasten to follow the path Yahovah has laid out for your life. May your entire life be fruitful. May Yahovah's full will for you be accomplished in your life. May the spirit of Yahovah, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, spirit of counsel and power, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of Yahovah be upon you. May the grace of Yeshua Mashiach, the love of Elohim, and the fellowship of Ruach HaKodesh be upon you now and forever. Amen. So I'm going to switch things up this morning. I'm not going to read from the book of Job, but don't forget about Job. We're not done with Job. We're going to switch up a couple of things today. We'll talk about that later. All right, so Acts chapter 1, starting in verse 4. Gathering them together, he commanded them not to leave Jerusalem, but to wait for what the Father had promised, which he said, "You heard of from me. For John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now." So when they had come together, they were asking him, saying, "Lord, is it at this time you are restoring the kingdom of Israel?" He said to them, "It is not for you to know times or epochs which the Father has fixed by his own authority, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and even to the remotest part of the earth." And after he had said these things, he was lifted up while they were looking on, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And as they were gazing intently into the sky while he was going, behold, 2 men in white clothing stood beside them. They also said, "Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into the sky? This Yeshua, this Jesus, who has been taken up from you into heaven, will come in just the same way as you have watched him go into heaven." Then they returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day journey away.
All right, y'all, let's worship.
Yeah.
The one who calms the raging storm, one who walks upon the sea. Earth and heaven are your own, yet you're watching over me. How majestic is your name, 'cause there is none like you. There is none like you. Together we proclaim the power of your name, 'cause there is none like you. Who could stand before your throne? Your kingdom will forever reign. We will sing a song of praise to the Ancient of Days, 'cause there is none like you. There is none like you. Together we proclaim the power of your name, 'cause there is none like you. Oh, there is none like you.
Ekmoka Adonai,
There is none like you.
Ekmoka Adonai,
Together we proclaim the power of your name, 'cause there is none like you. How majestic. How majestic is your name. How majestic is your name. How majestic is your name in all the earth. Oh, how majestic is your name. How
proclaim the power of your name, 'cause there is none like you. There is none like you. Ekmoka Adonai. There is none like you. Ekmoka Adonai. Together we proclaim the power of your name, 'cause there is none like you. Oh, how majestic is your name. How majestic is your name. How majestic is your name in all the earth. How majestic is your name. How majestic is your name. Together we proclaim the power of your name, 'cause there is none like you.
Drum solo.
Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me, and I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. Over the mountains and the sea, your love runs with love for me, and I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. I could sing of your love forever. 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 Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me, and I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. I will sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. Oh, I feel like dancing. It's foolishness, I know, but when the world has seen the light, they will dance with joy like we're dancing now. I could sing of your love forever. 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 God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. He's working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh, yes, I will. I count on one thing. The same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. He's working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh, yes, I will for all my days. Oh, yes, I will, and I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against. Oh, yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh, yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh, yes, I will. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh, yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh, yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will. My Jesus, my Savior, Lord, there is none like you. All of my days, I want to praise the wonders of your mighty love. My comfort, my shelter, tower of refuge, majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the work of your hands. Forever I'll love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you. My Jesus, my Savior, Lord, there is none like you. All of my days I want to praise the wonders of your mighty love. My comfort, my shelter, tower of refuge and strength. Let every breath, all that I am, never cease to worship you. Shout to the Lord, all the earth, let us sing. Power and majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the work of your hands. Forever I'll love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you. Sing shout to the Lord again. Shout to the Lord, all the earth, let us sing. Power and majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the work of your hands. Forever I'll love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have. Oh, nothing compares to the promise I have. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you. Amen. Father, there is nothing compared to you. We have all we need in you, and we praise your name. We thank you for everything you are and everything you do for us. We thank you for your son, Yeshua. It's the reason we're here today, and we thank you for this worship time. We thank you for the Bible study to come. I pray that each would hear you speak today. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Test, 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 test. Hello, hello. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. I think so. Sounds good for the room, but I mean, that's also because I talk loud. Uh-oh. Hey, did I leave my Bible back there? The covered one. That's weird. No, I definitely brought it out. I just don't know what I did with it. I thought I brought it out. My complete Jewish Bible, the one that's covered. I'll be all right without it. I'll use this one. All right. Good morning. Am I good back there? Can you hear me on the thing? Can you see me? Everybody see the TV, the Vanna White things over there? Or the screens over there? Okay, so today is going to be what? Okay. How about now? Good? All right. Everybody else can see the TV? All right, so today is going to be different. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. I am going to, instead of trying to catch up for 2 weeks worth of stuff completely, we're just going to do the Torah portion, and I'm going to adjust our reading schedule, which I needed to do anyways, to where we stick with our 3-year plan with all the rest of the stuff, right? The prophets, the history books, the apostolic writings, right? Just trying to cram everything up together to catch up. Instead, we're just going to take a pause and stick with the 3-year Torah cycle, at least. Keep up with that part. Keep that rolling, okay? And then, because of that, I'm just going to talk. No, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, I promise. I might read some, right? Just going to share my heart a little bit. Not anything crazy. Just, what happened while I was in the deep, dark world of quarantine. Wasn't that dark. I agree. It wasn't that dark or that bad. Some good things came out of it. For sure. You have the room mic turned up enough to where, be sure whenever I'm not talking and somebody else is talking, I've noticed it's just good just to turn it up and turn it back down. In case we get there. We may not even get there. So, title, right? A glimpse inside, ask the question. That's really, truly, honestly, if you got to see the thumbnail for our Facebook page or the YouTube page, if you aren't subscribed, again, I say this, every other week, do it. Go to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channels, I promise, I know I keep saying this, it's going to have a lot more functionality in the sense that I'm going to divide up the videos into small clips based on subjects and conversations and good things. So go to the YouTube channel. But you'll get a thumbnail for both our Facebook and video and YouTube video. It's a heart holding the hand of a brain, making it come along, right? Come on, come with me. Okay, that was the picture this week, and I didn't put it in the slideshow, but if you ever go look at the YouTube channel, you'll see it. And then my subtitle here is "Ask the Question," and that's going to kind of be me rambling here in a little bit. or just going on. And I wouldn't so much call it rambling. All right. So without further ado, okay, Genesis chapter 19. I picked this picture for a very particular reason. Nolan, don't you say a single word. He's already trying to steal my thunder first thing today. I ain't even seen him for 5 minutes, and he's talking about what I wanted to talk about, all right? I picked this picture for a reason, and as I read Genesis chapter 19, because that's what we're going to do, we're just going to read the Torah portion this week. And I do that for a number of reasons. One, for my children's sake. We had a good conversation we'll talk about here in a little bit, a little more. But we had a good conversation, and it was a little bit convicting, possibly even condemning in the sense that, I already knew this and already understood this, but my children, have not been taught as diligently as they should have been taught Torah over the years. So they miss some things and some names and some people and places. And, every once in a while when we get the chance, especially when I'm only going to really be talking about Genesis chapter 19 and 20 today specifically, we can do a little bit of reading. So that's what I'm going to do. Is everybody all right with that? Good? Okay. We'll do some talking too. All right, so remember where we left off. I know it's been 2 weeks, but we left off with the wheeling and dealing of Abraham for the sake of any righteous person in Sodom and Gomorrah, or at least 10. His boldness to stand in the gap for them and to say, if there's even 10, will you save the entire city for just 10 righteous? And the two angels had left that conversation even before it happened to head down to Sodom. And here's where we're at in chapter 19, Genesis chapter 19, verse 1. Now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. So there's some of that courtesy of Abraham we talked about. Lot at least picked something up from his uncle. And he said, "Now behold, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way." They said, however, "No, but we will spend the night in the square." Yet he urged them strongly. So they turned aside to him and entered his house, and he prepared a feast for them and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Why did Lot beg them, plead them to not stay in the square? Did he know something that they didn't know? I would say that the story would tell us yes. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. So you see why we can't find 10 righteous. And they called to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may have relations with them." Thank you, NASB. But Lot went out to them at the doorway and shut the door behind them and said, "Please, my brothers, do not act wickedly. Now behold, I have 2 daughters who have not had relations with man. Please let me bring them out to you and do to them whatever you like. Only do nothing to these men inasmuch as they have come under the shelter of my roof." But they said, "Stand aside." Furthermore, they said, "This one came in as an alien, and already he's acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than them." So they pressed hard against Lot and came near to break the door. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves trying to find the doorway. Then the 2 men said to Lot, "Whom else have you here? A son-in-law and your sons and your daughters and whoever you have in the city, bring them out of the place. For we are about to destroy this place, because their outcry has become so great before Yehovah that Yehovah has sent us to destroy it." Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, and said, "Up, get out of this place, for Yehovah will destroy the city." But he appeared to his sons-in-law to be jesting. They didn't take him seriously. When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he hesitated. So the men seized his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his 2 daughters, for the compassion of Yehovah was upon him. And they brought him out and put him outside the city. They brought him out and put him outside the city. When they had brought them outside, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, and do not stay anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "Oh no, my lords. Now behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have magnified your loving kindness, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, for the disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Now behold, this town is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. Please let me escape there. Is it not small, that my life may be saved?" He said to him, "Behold, I grant you this request also, now to overthrow the town of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there." Therefore the name of the town was called Zoar. The sun had risen over the earth, and when Lot came to Zoar, the sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then Yehovah rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yehovah out of heaven, and he overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But his wife from behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Now Abraham arose early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before Yehovah, and he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the valley, and he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land ascended like the smoke of a furnace. Thus it came about, when God destroyed the cities of the valley, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived. Lot went up from Zoar and stayed in the mountains, and his 2 daughters with him, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar, and he stayed in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Then the first one said to the younger, "Our father is old." All right, so right here, I'm not going to continue reading. Not because I'm scared of the story, but Lot's older daughter gets him drunk, sleeps with him, has a child. Those children will become the Moabites. Lot's younger daughter gets him drunk the next night, sleeps with him. She has a child. That child will become the Ammonites. All right. Just important for future reference. Okay. So, go back to what I said about the picture. Why did I choose this painting of all the pictures and paintings and things that people have online about this story, about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? Can everybody see it? Shh, Nolan. I know, you can't say nothing. Be quiet. Why did I choose this picture for Genesis chapter 19? For what I want to highlight today, what I want to talk about today about this story. It is. It is. Nolan, you're pushing it. Yeah. Why do you think? Yeah. Why do you think I chose this painting of all the other paintings out there, images that you would find online of Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot's wife, the angels? What did this one have that all the other ones didn't have? It's a guess. Like, I'm not like, guys, you're not going to get in trouble for not knowing it. Yep, lots of paintings showed his wife as a pillar of salt. That was going to be my next statement, or my next conversation was going to be, what do most people preach about when they preach about this chapter of Genesis chapter 19? Sure. I mean, look at her. She can't move. Like, whatever. You see, it's a pillar of salt. Sorry. I should not be so insensitive. But no, let me go back to my question. What do people normally preach about when they preach about? What are the messages for us grown folks that have been in church most of our life? What message do we hear the most about Sodom and Gomorrah, other than their sin, other than they're getting destroyed, right? What's the one thing that we always like to focus on? Don't look back, right? Look, Lot's wife, she looked back, she turned into a pillar of salt. Lot's wife, we love to pick on you women. Y'all are all jacked up. Eve, Lot's wife, like, come on. Come on. Where's the defense? Where's the defense?
So has anything changed from the garden?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Has anything, that's what I say to my wife all the time when she makes me mad.
You said y'all were always getting blamed. Well, we got blamed in the garden.
And we talked about that. We talked about that when we started with Genesis chapter 1. We definitely talked about, and we beat us men up real good then, okay? So that brings me back around to my question. We always like to talk about how she couldn't help but to look back. Why did I pick this picture? What? No. You're going too far, too deep. Simpler than that.
It displays how much wealth he had because they got really nice clothes on.
They got really nice clothes on. It shows how much wealth. Go ahead, Nolan. You ready? Tell them. Why this picture? Don't go too farther than why this picture. Why this picture? Look, Nolan's so right. Look what they had to do. Look at that hand. Go Google. That's right. They had to drag him. They had to drag him out of town. Go back and.
I'm destroying this city. I'd have been on my donkey. I'm gonna live.
He hesitated. Thank you. He hesitated. Not only did it say he hesitated, but the angel literally had to grab a few of the people's hands. That's why I put this picture up here, because he's actually grabbing their hands. That maybe, but it does say they grabbed their hands. That's good. I would agree with you, Nolan. Yes, it was coming fast, and the angel, or the men, as Genesis chapter 19 calls them, had a sense of desperation. Like, now, we have to go. And Lot hesitated. Okay? Lot hesitated. First, we get his son-in-laws thinking he's joking. Then, we get Lot hesitating. And then, we get the wife looking back. And the reason I will go with what Nolan's saying about the measure, why did she turn into a pillar of salt? Because she disobeyed? The angel, I think it's way more practical than that. I think it's literally, we got to go now. It's happening right this second. If you stop or you look back, you will get consumed by what's happening. Not, you evil, bad Lot's wife, you deserve to be an example to the world for all eternity because you were disobedient and you look back. How about we look at it this way? That's right. You better be looking forward and moving forward, especially when you've been warned more than once that you are really close to being caught up in that judgment. I don't think it was don't look back because you'll turn to a pillar of salt. It was don't look back because you will be consumed.
It was practical.
Very practical.
But they didn't have faith. None of them had
Well,
faith.
none of them, because let's go all the way back, like I said, to how this starts, besides the evil. So please don't misunderstand me. I do not want to not talk about the normal thing we talk about here and what was going on with Sodom and Gomorrah and how evil the scene we see happen, right? With them wanting to rape these men, that's what it was, right? Wanting to have their way with them and calling Lot their judge because he's basically telling them, you don't do that. These men are underneath my roof. They came underneath my house. They turn and they mock him as like he's the bad person for withholding what they want.
Isn't that how God said?
But that's why I'm saying it. That's exactly why I'm saying it. Now, you got the son-in-laws who might have just an inkling of understanding. Now, we started counting on, two hands. We're already at the point to where we're talking about sons-in-laws, daughters, Lot, and Lot's wife. Okay, where are we at? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least. Whereas 6. 2 son-in-laws, 2 daughters, Lot and his wife. So notice, even if we were to say they're getting saved because they have some inkling of understanding of what righteousness is, they're still not 10. Where did Abraham start? He started at He stopped at 10, right? But regardless of that, look what the son-in-laws did. They see him freaking out, and they think he's kidding and he's joking. I mean, so let me pause for a second. Let's fast forward to the future. There's 2 really important things that Yeshua and the Gospels bring to us about this chapter, this story of Lot. 2 different concepts, 2 different ideas. One in the book of Matthew, I believe, and one in the book of Luke. So, does anybody remember at all, grown-up wise, young people probably not, maybe so, I don't know. What did Yeshua say in comparison to Sodom and Gomorrah?
It was worse for Sodom and Gomorrah. It's worse for you than it would be for Sodom.
Good. So he's talking about one city, right? He's talking about one city. That's the idea that it will be worse for you than it was for Sodom and Gomorrah, because if the miracles that had been performed in Sodom and Gomorrah that had been performed in you, this was later on in his life, later towards the end of his ministry, he's recalling that if the miracles that had been performed in that city had been performed in Sodom and Gomorrah, they would have repented a long time ago. Was exactly what he said, right? So before we start getting all judgy on Sodom and Gomorrah, that's Yeshua's day. We can only imagine our day. Now, what was the second thing that Sodom and Gomorrah, second place very significantly where Sodom and Gomorrah were brought up? Different concept now completely.
Give us a clue.
Noah and the flood. Same concept, same idea about, and in the days of, that's right.
Like Noah and Sodom and Gomorrah.
So there's one place where Yeshua is talking about the end of days will be like the days of Noah. You can preach that all day long, what that means. But he then goes on to mention and say they'll be given in marriage, they'll be living life like normal, and then all of a sudden destruction will come on them. And the same thing is said about Sodom and Gomorrah, that they were living life, partying it up. Think about the sons-in-law.
Where do you get your little sons-in-law? Where's son-in-law?
Hold on, I got you. Genesis.
Are you talking about Lot's daughters having wives?
Husbands, yeah.
They didn't have husbands. They were future. When Lot said...
What am I missing?
Lot said they have not known a man. They're not married.
Some of his daughters weren't married.
The daughters were not married. You was 1 year old.
Yeah.
You're married for 1 year before you have sex.
Well, hold on. I mean, maybe. You're right. I'm not disagreeing with you, right? Because it said they didn't know. They said they had never.
I don't see any son-in-laws mentioned.
Yeah. So go to verse 14. Tell me what you got in verse 14. 19, 14. Yeah. Okay. Either one, 12 or 14. Tell me what your translation says there, Bill.
Right. And my translation said they were pledged to marry.
Yeah.
Which one is that? Hold on, Nolan. Wait. Nolan, hold on. We gotta handle this issue. Hold on. What's it say, Bill? Does it say son-in-law? Yeah, somebody said in one of the translations somehow says I didn't dig deep enough into it, but that might be that they were betrothed. You know, I don't know though. It doesn't say very specifically.
The NASB says the Lot went out and spoke his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters.
Which one is that one? 12.
That is 14. So I think that they were betrothed and not
Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Bill. Yeah, it says it like that too. Here, I've got the NASB. That's what I'm reading. It says who were to marry his daughters. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you for that correction. Yeah. Either way, the point is they were these men who were associated with the family, betrothed, all right? the angels, the men, said, go get them. They actually told them, go get these guys. Go get everybody that's in your group. Again, I don't think that would have added up to any more than 6. And these betrothed to his daughters said, he's just jesting. He's joking, right? Boy. So what? Go ahead, Nolan. What? Got what? Oh, no. Here we go.
The two betrothed.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when Yeshua went to the well and said, "Go bring your husband here. We'll tell him about it." I have no husband. Oh, but you're right. You had 7, whatever, and what you live with now ain't your husband. He asked a question to see what she would say. The angel could have said the same thing to Lot. Go get your betrothed or go get your husband or your daughters and bring them with you. But they didn't believe it. But they could have been betrothed for that 1 year space and time that they don't get married. Neat stuff. I like how he can read your mind.
That's good. Okay. That's a good point. Reading your mind. I'm with you. All right. So the key here is, though, going back to what I was saying, they thought he was jesting, just like the days of Noah, just like the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. All these, starting with the sons-in-law or the betrothed, thinking that he was joking. Then you think about all the people in the city living their life normal, going about their day as usual, obviously not paying attention to any warnings, if they even got any. I don't believe they got any, other than seeing, Lot and these people run out of the city real fast. And boom, sudden destruction, sudden judgment. I just think the most important part of this story is twofold. One, I don't want to be those people for sure, sitting in the city with the sudden destruction coming on me. And number 2, I also don't want, any of us shouldn't want to be the one to hesitate either. I don't want to be the person to hesitate. And if you really, besides this story, we're talking about this, razor thin escape, so to speak, hesitation, this is going to kind of be a theme for today. Hesitation or not being in the right frame of mind, not being receptive to and filled with the right stuff. The reason why that's bad is because in that situation and circumstance, you could be the hesitated one, or you could be the one and this is the really scary part, the deeper end, you could be the one not even knowing it's coming. I don't want to be there. I don't want any of my family and my friends, any of you to be there. I definitely don't want my children to be there. Right? So how do we not be that guy? Well, we've already talked a little bit about Lot, right? We already understand what his focus was on, right? At hints we have in Genesis here. His mindset and his attitude, and even the fact that he was living in Sodom and Gomorrah. Come on, I don't want to be that dude. I don't want to have to be the guy in this picture being dragged away from sudden destruction by. Amen. Much less do I definitely don't want to be the person in the city, right? But it's easy to look at Lot's wife who got caught up. It's easy to look at people in the city. It's even easy to be able to point and focus on the sons-in-laws, right? And to look at them and be like, they thought he was kidding, and look what happened to them, right? I wanted to focus on Lot and his hesitation and the fact that he had to get dragged out of there. We'll come back to it a little bit here in a little while, just the concept. All right. Ready? Remember, I told you 2 chapters. Genesis chapter 19, Genesis chapter 20. All right. Now, Abraham journeyed from there toward the land of Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. Then he sojourned in Gerar. Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. Here we go again. Okay? So Abimelech, excuse me, I knew that. Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night and said to him, behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is married. Now Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, will you slay a nation even though blameless? Did he not himself say to me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother? In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands, I have done this. Then God said to him in the dream, yes, I know that in the integrity of your heart you have done this, and I also kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now, therefore, restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours. So Abimelech arose early in the morning and called all his servants and told all these things in their hearing, and the men were greatly frightened. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have you done to us, and how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what have you encountered that you have done this thing? Abraham said, because I thought surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And it came about when God caused me to wander from my father's house that I said to her, this is the kindness which you will show to me everywhere we go. Say of me, he is my brother. Abimelech then took sheep and oxen and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham and restored his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said, behold, my land is before you. Settle wherever you please. To Sarah he said, behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, it is your vindication before all who are with you, and before all men you are cleared. Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maid so that they bore children. For Jehovah had closed fast all the wombs of the household of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Even after all that talk? Yep. What stands out in this story?
Abraham is a very passive man.
See, I knew this was going to happen. That's why I asked this question. What else?
God speaks to people who don't have a relationship with him.
That's a good one. That's interesting. Abimelech has a dream with him. And he actually gives him credit for the integrity of his heart. Gives him credit. But then does say, I'm what caused you not to touch her. That's right. But he does give him credit. He does say, I see that you did this in the integrity of your heart, that you didn't do anything willfully wrong.
Evidently, Abimelech is the person who follows his beliefs. He's not a, I would think if he was a wicked person, God wouldn't have done that for him.
I mean, okay, we could argue that he's obviously not Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Obviously not, And he's that's another key piece that's interesting in kind of what Miss Becky's saying. That is the fact that he's having a conversation. I mean, she's already said that once, but it's not just the dream. He's having he's getting to plead his case in his dream before God, and God's listening. That's interesting for Abimelech's case. We're still not. Go ahead.
There was also interesting is that Abimelech is mortified, but also wondering why someone would speak to him like that. They literally asked Abraham.
Okay, so let's get back to this. Let's beat up on Abraham thing. Because that's what y'all wanted to do right from the get-go. And I'm not saying the women.
I think that
I know. We're saying sneaky. We're saying he's saying he's coward. He's scared. He's passive.
He's got a lot of faith. No.
He didn't lie, but I don't want to get into technicalities. Don't get me beat up now. I'm about to get beat up for your sake. What does Yehovah, what does God the Father say about Abraham?
He's my prophet, and if you mess up with his wife, I will destroy you.
At any point, at any point, at any point in this story, regardless of how all of you feel, all right, at any point during this story, do you find Yehovah chastising Abraham? As a matter of fact, not only does he not chastise him, but he says, go have this man pray for you. He's a prophet. And then later on, what causes their wombs to be opened up in Abimelech's kingdom? Abraham praying for him. Don't get into the technicalities of him not being a liar. Right?
Abraham had faith. God rewards those who have faith. David,
oh
my gosh, look at David.
Well, yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not trying to.
He was sorry for his sin.
I'm not trying to take away from the sin and the weakness and the cowardice and all the things that we always associate with this story, including go back to what we talked about the Pharaoh story, right? I think everybody in this room was here pretty much for the same conversation with him doing the same thing in Egypt, right? My point is, and it's a simple one, I am not trying to draw anything crazy out of this, except notice Yehovah does not say a negative word about Abraham in this story. If anything, he says two very strong positives.
And I don't think Abraham apologized. He literally just explained why. He never apologized or repented.
Yep. Again, I'm not trying to say I know why. I'm not trying to say we shouldn't see that as weak, right? I'm not trying to say any of that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, notice, here is the man of faith, and Yehovah is not calling him out.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question. If he would have said, she's my wife, would Abimelech have had him killed because he wanted her?
I don't know.
Was that the only way he could have really survived physically in that situation without God intervening in a miraculous way? I mean, if he's king, he can do whatever he wants. Well, get rid of him, I want the woman.
Same with the story of Pharaoh, right?
Yep.
Same with the story of Pharaoh. And God had to tell Pharaoh in a dream. God had to threaten Abimelech. So oh man, we're arguing now. Now we're getting down the point was doing this whole thing wisdom and not cowardice. Ooh.
Dealing with the real world the way the real world works in a way to survive.
You can go ahead, Nolan.
My turn?
Go ahead.
I get to talk?
Yes.
Abraham did not lie. He told exactly the truth. He only told part of it. What's a man's job is to protect his wife. Even if he has to put words in his wife's mouth to say, yes, he's my brother. But I can say one thing. I didn't hold my wife in my arms when she was 7 years old. When I was 7 years old, he held his wife in his hands when he was 7 years older than she was, whatever the number is. But that is an interesting concept. Holding your wife when she's a child. That's knowing a woman for a long time.
She was 90. He was 99.
So he was protecting his wife to the best ability he could. Unlike Adam that didn't protect his wife.
I will say this. I'm not disagreeing with you, Nolan. I'm not disagreeing with anything else that anybody else has said. I'm just saying it is interesting, right, that we can, and I do, and have, and still do, feel like Abraham was in the wrong. But at the same time, I find it very interesting that in both of these cases, and even when we later on, we're going to come to the Isaac case, you do not have God coming after Isaac or Abraham.
It makes me think about if there are righteous lies and righteous deceptions, or like with Rahab.
Rahab, didn't she lie and say they're not
Straight
here?
up lie.
Whoa, hold up. Mrs. and Mrs. Doctrine, do not get me in trouble on YouTube and Facebook by all the Bible Nazis and police. Man, somebody's going to come at me and be like, you're teaching them that it's okay to lie. It's not what I'm saying at all. But I do get what y'all are both trying to say. There is strategy in warfare. There is. What is the commandment? And again, I am not saying that God hates lying lips. I know that that's a proverb. But what is the commandment in the Ten Commandments? False witness against your neighbor. Okay? That is one of the 10. That is the 10. It is big in the sense that it is
Do not lie against somebody else. And bearing false witness could end up, in most cases, in witnessing against somebody death. Right? And that's, that in itself is like murder. Go
The
ahead.
people that hid Jews in World War II.
Oh, absolutely. And see, that's why I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, because now you're going to get me into my military background and all my sneakiness that I participated in. It wasn't my sneakiness, the government sneakiness, right? So listen, I'm with you. I understand, right?
Now we see through a glass darkly, but then we shall see face to face.
What was the job?
Yes.
What was the job of the king's henchman? To find pretty ladies for their king to have. Now, we're not judging the king, we're not judging Abraham. We're judging those guys that look for those pretty ladies.
Well, no, stop. Nolan, hold up. Quit. No, we're not going there. We should probably definitely judge. We should definitely judge an ungodly culture.
Same thing happens with Ruth, Gary. Look at the judgment happens to the people that you have to deal with. This is not today's stuff. This is back then. When they did this, they went out and they looked for ladies that were good for the king. And then they had this whole routine they went through to pick them out.
Well, not just Ruth. We could start talking about Esther and some other things like that, as well. I'm with you. And that obviously is a part of the culture, and that's why we end up with this same story 3 times.
Yeah, who did you take out the quicksand?
Yeah, but Jacob and Isaac lied.
Isaac did lie. I agree. All right. We've had fun. We've had a good time. All right. Number 1, don't be the hesitator. Okay? Don't be the hesitator. I hope I don't have to talk to anybody in here, including myself, to not be the unbeliever, right? But definitely don't be the hesitator. And with this story, be careful to be the judge. Be careful when you decide to be the judge of a certain situation or circumstance. And I want to be on that. I want to be on that side of things. If we're talking about hesitation now, let's talk about really being, God's man, right? To where an entire nation's, and I'm not trying to think of, I'm not talking about Ruth. I'm talking about the Abimelech nation's wombs being shut up. And again, there's a lot to that purpose and understanding of who Abraham was and how serious that violation would have been, and God's protecting him and all those kind of things. I'm just saying I would like to be the man of faith. That's my point. Not the hesitator, the man of faith. That's who I want to be. All right? Influencing nations. There you go. That's the point I'm trying to get across. All right. With that, something we missed last week, or last time we were together. Something that we missed, and it was weird, and it was strange, and I would go so far as to say potentially godly and heavenly, that it just kept on bugging me for no particular reason other than, sure, I have a perspective or viewpoint of things sometimes that might differ. I've talked about before, we've had conversations, sometimes lovingly heated conversations about, this idea of unity at all cost is not the path that we want for Olive Tree Fellowship. Unity is something we should all desire and all seek after, but there are going to be people, and this is really hard for me because I don't like it. I would wish and hope that everybody that is within the sound of my voice that would even think about being a part of Olive Tree Fellowship or even anything or that we end up doing any point in time in the future, I'd hope that everybody that would come along and want to join and be a part of our group would want to be and be loving and working together and moving forward in doing God's will for this area, for our own lives, for our own families. But I know for a fact that that is not a possibility. Not only is it not a possibility, but it's verses like this, and there's multiple other places that warn me to not think that is a possibility, to be wary, to watch out for. Okay? as a pastor, and I don't even know how I can say that out of my mouth, but as somebody who has said, yes, I will shepherd a group of people and make sure that we, like a sheepdog, right, that, we don't do anything crazy or we get out of line and do that in a loving manner, in a way, it's all about, protecting against the wolves as well, right? But that's not necessarily, that whole protection part is not necessarily why this verse kept bugging me. I'm going to read it. 1 Corinthians 11, verses 18 and 19. For in the first place, when you come together as a church, I hear that divisions exist among you, and I in part believe it. For there must also be factions among you, so that those who are approved may become evident among you. Remember, Paul, very learned, very taught, okay? In this passage here, if you fit it into the context of where it's at, it's right before he starts talking about the way they were behaving and treating the Lord's Supper without the kind of respect or honor that it deserved. And right before this, he's also talking about how they can't agree and they're not seeing eye to eye on things, right? So in this passage, in verse 19, he's literally saying there has to be divisions and there's going to be divisions among you so that those who are approved may become evident among you. What does that look like? And why did this stick out to me? Right? There are always going to be the opportunity or the chance for someone to get angry, to get upset, to get mad, to think we said something that we didn't say, or just to not even, it could be that, hey, they don't even like us, whatever. I am at a place, and I want you guys to understand this, that if it comes down to, hey, some disagreement where somebody, factions off from among us, right, in some kind of way, and I don't even know, we can all imagine, especially those of us who have been involved in church and ministry, our whole lives, so that those who are approved may become evident among you. I have heard it many times in my life, taught and preached. I've seen it happen, right? And, there's all these cliche terms out there, right? The dross, right? The process of smelting gold and silver, right? Leaves the impurities, they float to the top, right? Getting rid of it, right? The wheat and the chaff, right? And a lot of times that's just seen as just, right, unbelievers, or evil people, right? Not in the congregation of believers. I feel like one thing we need to be good with and comfortable with is, one, iron sharpens iron. That's a good thing, right? And two, sometimes, I ain't saying this to anybody in here right now. I promise you I do not feel this way about, I need y'all to understand there's nobody in this room I am saying this to. And ain't anybody online I'm directing it towards. Sometimes a sad, tearful, good riddance is perfectly okay and acceptable. And the only reason why I feel like this bugged me and why I was like, we didn't even talk about this, we just sort of jumped over this thing here, I think, was because I think it's just important to know. To know that, hey, and to remember, if God's going to do, because the reason why this is important, because it's real important to the next slide I have up here, the next thing I wanted to talk about, all right? If the Father is going to use us, all right, we got to let him use us, okay? And what that could possibly mean is we get a building, we're 150 strong and 75 leave. And I'm not trying to prep us for that kind of craziness. I'm saying that happens. And sometimes when that happens, shed a tear, good riddance. Okay? Because I do believe there is for my own life, my own personal life, for me internally, right? For could be for my family, right? In every individual, there's a whittling away, all right? Getting you prepared to be exactly what God wants you to be, right? I believe that happens inside of a group and a fellowship as well. And it just really stuck out to me that Paul is basically saying, you know what? You need to be divided. Even if it's frustrating, if you're not divided, and if you're not in factions, we're never going to figure out which one of you are truly on the right track and on the right path. Approved, right? Like he told Timothy, study to show thyself approved, right? Rightly dividing the word. Everybody okay? I ain't freaking nobody out by pointing this out. Go ahead, Bill.
Just because they're divided doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong.
That's right.
You had Paul, Shaul, and what was his name?
Marcus,
Well, there was the other one,
Barnabas.
Barnabas.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them had their own missions as it turned out.
Yeah,
And both of them had their own
that's right.
people that they were talking to.
That is a good
It
point.
wasn't necessarily one was right. They were both wrong, and that the division is always wrong.
Totally agree.
But it happens. That's what he's saying there. Factions will happen.
Yep.
And sometimes it is planned that way that you don't know, you don't see the bigger picture.
Right. God, and that's a good point.
But
Right.
it's important to not think that because we're still here that we are the right ones and they are the wrong ones. That is the wrong.
I would agree with you. Leave it at that. 100%. Divisions are ugly. They're not good. I would say this to that point. Like, you could have somebody who aren't even, and I'm not trying to say that I should be the one to identify who they are or who they are not. And I better be careful not to think that I couldn't be that one.
I think the judgments is always bad.
That's right. And so you got to be careful with that. Totally agree. To stand and be like, hey, you're the right person. But that also comes to another important point, and that is you are supposed to make judgments. You have to, right? Especially in a fellowship in a group of people. And you might end up in a situation where it's not just a disagreement like Shaul and Barnabas, right? There could be situations where it's ugliness. And I'm not even talking about anything currently. I promise you, I am not talking about anything currently going on in our world or in our realm. I'll give you an example, a really good example, right? Again, this is not. I'm not preemptively trying to save myself, okay? All right, I'm going to use Jared as an example, so that way I don't get in trouble, right? But somebody comes along and falsely, within the fellowship, right, falsely accuses Jared of something wrong, okay? And now, granted, we're talking, we get judgment councils, things would have to be worked out, and things would have to be figured out. But it becomes real obvious real quick that the accusing party, right, has no intention of really getting to the truth. They're just, nope, he is, this is what he is, he did this, with no witness other than themselves or an attitude towards Jared. And then 75 people join in with that person, right, without ever speaking to Jared, without ever speaking to any leadership. You know what I'm saying? And I'm using this as an example because this is something I've heard or have seen happen, right? And then those 75 people, hit the road. Right? I think in those situations, we're talking about a cleaning up of some mess. And it could just be, right, to Bill's point, it could just be that the people in that 75, that group of 71, some of them truly could just be, hey, it's uncomfortable, I don't like it, I'm not sure of the truth, so therefore I'm gonna go do something else, go somewhere else. That could be the case. But what I have witnessed in the past and seen, and I'm talking like past, not anything current, right, is a mindset and an attitude of out for blood, ugliness, false accusations, and I honestly believe that the Spirit of God will help us as long as we're not in some kind of goofy, weird headspace or judgmental, or anything like that, to help us and protect us and to get rid of the chaff, get rid of the dross, and to keep us heading in a right direction according to His will. And yes, that does not mean that somebody like the example of Shaul and Barnabas that disagrees isn't out there doing something for the kingdom of God just as equal to anything that we end up doing. They do it a different direction, different path, maybe even for a different group of people, right? That I totally agree with that and totally believe God will use us, and we should be very careful about being like who's right and who's wrong, for sure. For sure. Being able to lovingly be like, hey, we just agree to disagree, right? Like being able to do that. I think I'm more so originally was talking about the situations where it's not about lovingly agreeing to disagree. It's not about, you guys are a little more Jewish than we are, right? Right? You guys are a little more comfortable with saying Jesus than we are, right? Especially some of those messianic divisions, right? We have those, and we're in communication with people on a regular basis that don't agree with us, right? Or do things differently than we do. Lovingly, that way, right? And I think that we've got that, and I think we'll stay there. And the reason why all of this talk and all this stuff is important to hash out is because what was the subtitle of the message today, or my heart, right? What's been on my heart. I promise you're not going to get, you ain't already gotten a lawversation, right? Lawversation, by the way, is just me rambling on, right? On all kinds of different rabbit trails that entertains people when they like it, okay? Why are y'all laughing? But the reason why any kind of function of government, like we were just talking about, right, and hashing out rights and wrongs and viewpoints and anything like that, why is any of that kind of stuff important? Because of this question here in the middle of this slide, the ask the question that I had as a subtitle, what are we supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be doing? The first bullet there, I put up there and said, why Torah? Now, whoa. You all know that's a crazy question, especially if I plan on being done in, I don't know, what time is it? I can't tell. Right? In 20 minutes even, okay? But I'm going to keep it real simple, like I did last night for my children. Why do we, we've been talking about it, Vahavta, the Vahavta. And these words that I command you this day, you shall, right? Why, and the Shema, hear and obey. Why do we teach our children, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, diligently? Why do I need to meditate on this law day and night? Why do I need to have it so serious in my mind and in my heart that I put it in front of my eyeballs, right? And I write it on my hands, and it's on the doorpost of my door. It's on my doorpost, and it's on the gates. Like, why? Okay. Because we want to be successful. I mean, it's that simple. What I just said. Meditate on it day and night. What's the next thing that God says to Joshua when he says to do that? Don't be bold. Don't be afraid. Meditate on this book of the law day and night so that it will go well with you and your way will be prosperous, right? And then in the Shema and in chapter 5 of Deuteronomy, when right before Moses recants the 10 Commandments and all of that speech from there all the way through the Shema and chapters afterwards, it says so that it will go well with you. And sometimes it's real specific about what in the land you're going to inherit, but sometimes it's so that it will go well with you. In this conversation that I had with my children and these couple of days of being quarantined, something that I had a little bit of an issue, and I'll share with you. Here's the lawversation piece. I went down, I've been doing it lately. I shouldn't say always. I've been doing it with these videos, right? Talking about like my life, my past, experiences with God getting a hold of me, you know, at the age of 22, right? I've been talking about, like, you know, all these things and stuff, encounters and situations, circumstance where music was influential, or the children's pastor that was, you know, big in my life. I could talk about all kinds of different situations, circumstances where I'm like, man, there was God's hand getting me on the right path, getting me on the right track. I had a moment during this quarantine where I found some YouTube videos of a youth group that I grew up listening to in my non-denominational charismatic church. And the videos were called Fire by Night. And it was done by a ministry called Willie George Ministries, which is also responsible for a group called, or a presentation or TV series actually called Gospel Bill, right? And that was for the young kids and for the younger people. The Fire by Night was for the teenagers. And Willie George Ministry was a huge ministry in Oklahoma. I say huge, they're still existing in some forms or fashions, but it's not the same. The point is, I watched these videos that I watched when I was, 10 up till 14, 15 years old. I was watching pieces and parts of them, going through the different years, and I'm sitting here, and I mean, there were some of them, my children, of course, were making, what do our children say whenever we try to go watch a movie from the 80s, right, from the 90s? Oh, Dad, that's old, right? Or that's silly, or that's corny. Yeah, that's corny, right? All right, so this was a production, right? A youth group production, and they were corny intentionally at times, right? They were silly, but they were actually, far-wise as anything I've seen in my adult and teenage and adult life later on, far-wise as production is concerned, probably don't know if anybody has ever even come close to doing the same level of, like, videos for youth, right, talking about the things of God, right, and trying to convince them to not live a crazy life. And in the midst of this, confession. I'm watching the videos on, there's two-part series in the 90s, right? Because again, this spanned from like 87 all the way to, mid-90s. In the early 90s, Sex Part 1 and Sex Part 2. And it was all of the, you can only imagine, all of the data and the stuff that they had at this time about marriage, AIDS, sexually transmitted diseases, basically going on and on and on, talking about like why young people should young people should obey God. Why Torah? Right? Why should Christians, right, do this right thing? Okay? They had one, small clip I watched. It was about drugs, right? And they had all this stuff. And I'm sitting here going, and they were doing a really good job of explaining the numbers, data, doing stuff. Oh, sorry, the microphone. Can't help it. Reaching the young people. And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, first thing that happened, right? So you guys don't think I'm judging McJudge, okay? First thing that happened was, of course, serious conviction. I was listening to the right stuff from good people, right, since I was way too young, to now then turn around and think about all the wrong things that I did, especially right after watching that stuff. So what's my question going to be after that, right? What kind of questions am I going to have after that? Is there any hope? Can we reach the young people? Can I convince them to not do what I'm looking in the 90s, and we're in 2022, and they were working real hard. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of effort to try to convince young people all over the country to obey God, the God they said they believed in and they followed, right? And so, of course, you get a little hopeless, right? You watch this, you see this, I think about my own life, and I look at what's gone on since I can remember. I think about the numbers, right? You're in a war. You think about who's fallen to the wayside and who has not, right? 9 times out of 10, guys and gals, those numbers we're talking and I don't have enough toes over here on this side to keep like counting, right? So something hit me, of course, because back then when I was going to that particular church, I didn't read the Vahavtah. I didn't talk about, I'm sure I got taught about it at some point, but I never talked about as much and as often as I have in the past probably 15 years. I did not even then talk about as much as I do today how important it is to meditate on this and to talk about God's law day and night. Meditate on it, talk about it. And if you think about it, I was telling this to my children, I gave the example of wanting to change your diet, lose weight, get in better shape, right? If you go to the refrigerator and open it up with the healthy and the unhealthy in it, and you don't even know how to identify what's healthy and unhealthy, you're done. You're doomed already. Or if it's hazy, you don't even have, a clear picture of what you should or should not be eating, you're in trouble. You're not going to get healthy, right? It's not going to happen. But I asked my children, I was like, hey, if you get educated and you keep it in your mind and your heart all the time, the picture of what you should or should not put into your mouth, how much easier will it be for you if you really want it? You really want that health, physically speaking, how much easier would it be for you when you go to open up that fridge and to pull out the food? So, why Torah? Right? Not just so that one time I can talk about it, you can read about it, you can be overwhelmed with it in certain messianic circles and groups, and like it's almost to the point to where some of you may end up having it memorized. That's a good thing. I'm not taking away from that at all. That's where I feel like we should be. And that is so that we have, and now what's even better, right, is that we have this ability to beseech the Father to have the Spirit of God write those things, not just on our brain. Remember, my picture is my thumbnail, but on our hearts, and our heart can lead our brain. All right? And I'm not trying to say your brain doesn't need to be healthy and full of all kinds of information, because that's kind of exactly what I was talking about just a second ago. But I'm just saying we got something now to where we can lean on it, believe in it, have faith in it, to where it's not just, all right, I've got this memorized, and I've psyched myself up, and I'm scared, and I know I'm not going to grab the donuts. I'm going to grab the carrots, right? But we got a place now where if we really seek the Father and we ask for that help, you got a place to where with little work, a lot of faith, you can now, I don't want to. Donut turns my stomach even thinking about it right now. Right? I ain't hating on donuts, okay? Just everybody understands the analogy, I hope. Okay, so there's why Torah. What are we supposed to be doing? I got that little bit of review. I read Acts chapter 1 for you for our scripture reading today. I could go right now and read Matthew chapter 28, the very end. Most of us have it memorized, though. Especially in Matthew chapter 28. What are we supposed to be doing? Right? What are we, as a group of people, supposed to be doing? Hearing and obeying? Sure, absolutely. But we're not supposed to be in a synagogue, closed up, with our Torah scrolls, hearing and obeying, and that be the end of it anymore. And I mean, I know we all know that, right? Go into all the world and make disciples, right? Every once in a while, I feel like I need to, and I'm making you guys do it too today, recalibrate my viewpoint. And I'm not trying to say that I know in speaking to a number of us, and me and Jared talking, on a regular basis, our heart is to be making disciples. It's a goal. It's a goal. It's where we want to go. Where we want to head, and not just us comfortable here in this fellowship, right? Trust me, I know it may not seem like it at times. There is a vision, all right? There's a vision for reaching anybody, and as we go, and that's what it says in Matthew chapter 28, towards the end. As you go, making disciples, Talmudim, followers of the way. It doesn't say that in Matthew 28, but I'm parsing pieces of Yeshua's words together. Followers of him. So, with all that being said, personal experience, really frustrated, down and out, really upset about, looking back into my past, and not just my past, but church past, right, and seeing what seems like, sometimes a failed effort. Turn it around, and I got to a place where I met myself in the mirror. We went to fisticuffs. Go ahead, you keep laughing. You make me mad. I'll stop crying. I went to fisticuffs with myself, and I said, of course it's not hopeless. I'm motivated. I'm encouraged. I still laid around too much and didn't do a whole lot, but, thanks quarantine. But I truly am motivated, encouraged. I truly believe that I'm going to keep, doing that first thing, and that is taking care of my home, teaching my children, which I have already admitted today and on multiple occasions, but, there's been some neglect there over the years. Recently, it's been real good. So I encourage all of you to please do the same for yourselves, for your families, for your households. And that, why Torah, and what are we supposed to do? There was a piece that I had to leave with my children that I also want to leave with us, and that's kind of another part of this little review. What else do we have going on, besides, our day-to-day life and God being involved in it when we invite him to be so, in the kingdom of heaven here and now in our lives, right? I've talked about it from the very get-go when we first started, meeting here. That part of the Lord's Prayer, right? Protect us from all evil. Why Torah, right? Why do you need, I've said this in weeks past, and I'm just repeating it here, because it's been on my heart. Why do you need his instruction, and why do you need to converse with him on a regular basis? Because, like Yeshua said, this one only comes out with much fasting and prayer, right? We are at war. We are truly, truly at war on multiple fronts, and we need to be armored up and prepared for what comes when we go and when we make disciples of, everybody all over the place, even to the far reaches of the earth, right? Protect us from all evil, keep us safe, keep us strong. Let's encourage each other. My children used this big word yesterday, and I said, oh, bring it on, bring it on. And they were like, we need accountability. And I said, do you really? I was like, all right. Hey, open door, right? But it was Kyla's fault. Yep, she's pointing at herself right now. She said it. And she said it very sincere, too. Yeah, go ahead, Nolan.
All right. There's three women I have a hard time reading about. Miriam, Esther, and Ruth. Ruth didn't hesitate. She got on the wagon and she headed to town doing what she's supposed to do. Esther was chosen by the king through his henchmen. They gathered her up with the herd, and she was volunteered by the henchmen, and she was chosen Creator chose her for a specific job. She volunteered, jumped on the bandwagon, and ready to go. Esther was chosen by the king. Ruth was chosen by the king. And so was Mary. And they volunteered to do their job. They didn't hesitate. They took the job at the will, and they did the best they could with what they got to do with it. Ruth followed her uncle, I think. And what did Esther, was that an uncle or something?
Esther followed her uncle. Ruth followed her mother-in-law.
All right, that's it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Look, I have a hard time with names. But who was with Mary? She was by herself. Her stepfather, I think, was the chief in the temple. Well, he probably helped her along the way. Because when she told him, this isn't in the book, this is just me speculating, but she was his stepdaughter, I think. I had to look it up again. But there's three women that are hard to read. I can't read them. But they volunteered for their job. No hesitation. Jumped on the wagon. Let's go! I like it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, jump on the wagon. Go. Identification. Ruth, God's will, God's plan for our life. Yeah. Anybody got anything else they want to share? Just ask yourself the question, what are we supposed to be doing? And what am I doing to make sure I'm prepared for what we're supposed to be doing? All right? Administratively, okay, I promise there will be some more discussion about what the future holds for, Olive Tree Fellowship and things we want to do. Far-wise as our outreach is concerned, far-wise as getting ourselves, all of us, all the way from the oldest to the youngest, ready, discipled, so that we can do what we're supposed to be doing. All right? And how that may look for the individuals could be very different, but it all still seems to have one goal. And that's Yeshua preached and the Father obeyed. All right. Nobody? Anybody? Got anything? You want to stay back there? You're good. Like I said, just for, again, administrative purposes, the reading plan will be updated, and I will send it out however I have to. Picture, text, band, Facebook. Yeah, and I'll have some especially for next week. You talking about